Welcome back to the Get Off the Treadmill podcast for small business owners and entrepreneurs, where we show you how to build a successful business and to have a life too. We're going to dive into another topic that helps us make more money in less time and to get off the treadmill so we can experience a life of significance. And now, your host and the author of the #1 best-selling business book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, Chuck Blakeman.
Today I'm with John Heenan from Belfast, Ireland. John helps business leaders get off the treadmill. John provides outcome-based mentoring and peer advisory for business leaders worldwide. He has decades of sales, marketing, and operations experience leading companies in marketing, import, export, fulfillment, call centers, website development, printing, and direct mail processing. Some of his customers have included some of the UK's biggest businesses, but his passion is for small business. John is also a public speaker, writer, nonprofit member, and strong advocate of small business. He owns a number of businesses, including TDS, the distribution solution, which warehouses and fulfills consumer product orders for companies all over the world and partners with them to help develop growth. His special motivation is helping business owners get off the treadmill by learning vision, leadership, business ownership instead of being hostages to their business, sales and marketing, operations, development, growth strategies, and merger acquisitions. All the stuff we need to know in order to get a business done. Welcome, John.
Chuck, good to hear you.
Yeah.
Good to meet you. Ian.
Yep, good to be with you.
Yeah.
So let's do this. We sure had fun having you and good old what's his name over on Henry McCrory, the two of you over in October. That was a lot of fun. I look forward to having you back.
Yeah, look forward to coming back.
So for our listeners, John and I met, what was it, 2003?
April 2003 in the Swan Hotel in the Disney complex.
Yeah, I think I might have spoken at that conference. I don't remember, but it was a fulfillment conference.
Yeah.
And we met and I ordered a bottle of wine. And then after I ordered the bottle of wine and it arrived, John politely let me know it was Lent and he was off the sauce. And so it was a long dinner for me to sit there and drink that whole bottle of wine by myself.
But you persevered.
I did. Yeah, and we've been real great friends ever since. And I'm looking forward to getting over there in the next couple of months. And I know you guys will be back. So today we're going to talk about clarity, hope, and risk. 3 things that I think are really helpful for business owners. Why did you pick this topic?
Because I'm a bit of a slow learner. I have been in business a long time. I have made some of the most horrendous mistakes you can make. And a big motivator for me is if I can try and help somebody avoid some of them, it would be, I'll have done a good job. And I came to realize over the years, and thanks to yourself and your book, How Making Money is Killing Your Business, and that whole journey, that my biggest problem, and I think it's the same with majority of small business owners, is that we keep making decisions based on the circumstances and the emotion that we're in, as opposed to where it is that where we're going. And it's because we haven't got absolute clarity about where we're going. And again, over the years, I've learned that when I didn't have clarity, I took on clients that I should never have taken on. I took on suppliers I should never have taken on. I took on staff I should never have taken on because I was continually reacting to the emotion and the circumstances and the pain and the fear that I generally was in. If that's a long-winded answer to a short question.
No, I think it's a huge problem we all share in common as small business owners. I've called it the tyranny of the urgent. I'm actually looking at, I'll bring up this picture since you were talking about that. I think we're all still hunting mastodons in our head. We're all in survival mode, and survival mode requires that we make short-term decisions. Am I going to die in the next 5 seconds? I look at 10,000 years ago, the guy looks at a blueberry bush, and instead of seeing blueberries, his first thought is, I wonder if there's a saber-toothed tiger in the middle of the blueberries who's going to eat me. It's all about survival, and that drives us to the short term. And the short term is what actually kills our businesses. It keeps us alive, but it's about the tyranny of the urgent. And those long-term decisions you're talking about is about the priority of the important. And we mix those two, we just don't pay any attention to the important stuff. So why is it that we spend all our time in the urgent and don't spend any time on the important stuff?
I mean, if you look at society today, we congratulate and honor the fastest, the biggest, the quickest, that's from zero to hero over lunchtime. And it's like a drug to us all. And we buy into this. And if you look at, I'll say, like social media, and look at me, I'm a hero, times 1,000 it, and all this stuff we
And
got.
it all happened overnight. I was an overnight success. Everybody is an overnight success. We all look at the woman who created Spanx, that underwear, women's underwear thing. And we think everybody is just like her. She cut the bottoms off her hose and ended up with $1 billion in her pocket.
Yeah. Well, funny, you talk about that, Chris Rea, God rest him, just died there last month or something. And I remember coming home, and this was Christmas, driving home from Dublin, and it came on the record, Chris Rea driving home for Christmas. And he was being interviewed. And I sort of said to him, because that was sort of just help him break through the ceiling, as it were. And the guy says to him about being an overnight success. He says, overnight success? He said, I've spent 26 years, I think he said, driving up and down the motorways of Britain, playing in clubs and pubs and 5 people and a dog there type of thing. Nobody ever sees that. And it's the same with, I think, everything. We look at a tree. What's that Chinese expression? When's the best time?
Oh, yeah. Best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And the next best time is today.
Yeah. And so I think that's the biggest challenge. And if you look at when we all started in business, we had a bit of clarity what we were doing with the target market. We were going to do stuff. And then we get started, and it's not going as quick as the best as the way we think. And then we start adding other things in. And that expression about entrepreneurs don't starve, they drown. It's not add on and keep going wide as opposed to going deep.
Yeah.
And we do this in our businesses all the time. And, if I look back over the years, I'd say more of the success, well, not even the success, but if I'd have said no to more things, I'd have had less pain.
Yeah.
And then I remember one time talking to someone saying, like, how do you get to where you can say no to something? Well, the only place that you can get to where you say no to something when you're very clear what you're going to say yes to. And that actually came home. I have a friend, he rang me one day, he's a solicitor, so he says to me, John, how do you fancy going to New York for free for 5 days? And I said, hold on a second, there's nothing free about you, nor the likes of you. I said, what's the deal? He says, if they'll run a few miles and raise some money, but they'll be grand. It was a New York bloody marathon. He decided to stop smoking, and he'd set himself a target of doing this as a means of staying off the cigarettes.
New York Marathon?
So I said, okay, I'll do that with you too. And it was funny, general routine at home on a Friday night, you get the Chinese or the Indian and bottle of wine or whatever. And I soon realized after about 2 weeks, because we used to do a long run on a Saturday morning, the Chinese or an Indian and some wine and a long run don't mix. So when I got real clarity around, hold on, this marathon's 26.5 miles, that's a long way, it actually changed my behavior. So I stopped doing that on a Friday night. And that was, in its simplest form, was I started making a decision based on where I was going, not the fact that I was starving and I had a hard week and I need a drink. To hold on a second, I'm getting up in the morning at 8 o'clock to run 12 miles.
Yeah. So the first one of these, clarity, hope, and risk, the reason we don't have clarity more often than not, I think I'm hearing what you're saying, is because we're too busy dealing with the short-term decision making that keeps us alive today. And so we're having Chinese because Chinese looks good right now, instead of thinking, well, what do I need in the long run? So we don't get clarity because we just don't spend time talking about or focusing on the priority of the important. What are the important things? I'm too busy with the tyrannical, urgent things.
Yeah. And that goes for your dad. That goes for everything in life. It's not just business. If you haven't taken the time to get clarity around, if you don't know where you're going through, any road will take you.
Yeah. And I remember you saying, you shared this with me a number of years ago, if you're making decisions based on where you are, where do you think you'll be next year? But that's how we all are. And we end up in Groundhog Year. Every year it's the same. It's like, how did I end up, my business grew and we have more revenue and I still work 60 hours a week. How did that happen? Short-term decision making. We don't have clarity around what we want in life and in business. So I think that's really important that we understand that simple question. What do you want? Not what does your business want? What does the world around you want? What do your customers want? What do you want? And then what are you doing to get that? Unless you know what you want a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, with your lifetime goals, then you're going to eat Chinese and have wine every night.
And, if you look at it like, hey, I'm sort of past middle age at this stage, even though I still think I'm 26. But if you want to be still healthy and mobile and all in your 80s and your 90s, you better do something about it in your 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Yeah.
The challenge is when opportunity presents itself, it's a bit late to start getting ready. You better be prepared in advance.
Yeah.
And I remember I told you a story before. He was actually a friend of my younger brother's. I met him on a plane. This is years back. And he had gone off. He was originally born in America, but he'd gone off to join the American Army or whatever. And he ended up in Navy SEAL. Now, when I met Sean, he's like a pull through for a drain pipe, as we would say, this long, skinny thing, right? And this guy was built like this. And I sat down with him and I was saying, what happened to you? He says, well, joined the army, did well, joined the Navy, got chosen or something, whatever, to become a SEAL and whatever. And he was explaining to me, in the training for being a Navy SEAL, for the first, I don't know, many weeks or whatever, every day they try and drown you.
Yeah.
Now, there's somebody to look after you, and he says, I nearly drowned a couple of times, and the whole purpose of that was that they were training you how to respond, not react. Because if you're in a battle situation and you're under the water and somebody attacks you, the immediate response is panic and all the rest of it. So they're training him to respond, and respond is a learnt behavior as opposed to react being an emotional, circumstantial response. And it's that type of thing of trying to remind myself of that, okay, Jim Rohn says it great. He says, don't get through the day, get from the day. I'm sure we've all done it. You've gone in, you've met somebody, you're pitching them or whatever, and you come out and you went, oh, frick, you know, right?
Yeah.
Should have said this or shouldn't have said that or whatever. But we get up and brush ourselves down and go on as if nothing happened. We don't actually learn from the thing, and we repeat it. And, you know, the thing about it is you'll keep repeating things until it's hurting you enough to where you're willing to change. And that's the biggest challenge, because I'm comfortable enough. It's a bit annoying, you know, it's like getting a stone in your shoe. It's only a wee stone. It's a bit of annoying. I haven't time to take the stone out. So you keep going. At the end of the day, you've got a blister in your foot and you can hardly walk the next day.
Yeah. And it's still about short-term decision-making. You know, I'm too busy walking to actually stop and take the stone out of my shoe. Or if we win the big game, I feel like right now going and getting drunk. If we lose the big game, I feel like right now going and getting drunk. And in neither case do I learn anything. And so the next time, I don't know how it's going to work out either way. So I remember buying that book, The Art of Possibility, a couple of decades ago, Xander and Xander, The Art of Possibility. And I stole this idea from them, that instead of looking at things as victory and defeat, you look at them as fascinating, because then you'll learn. That's fascinating. How did that happen? How did we get that right? Let's do that again. How did we get that wrong? Let's not do that again. And we don't do that because, again, we have not figured out where we want to end up, what we want 1, 3, 5, 10 years from now, what it looks like, how much time, how much money, how much energy, the 3 resources in life. What does it look like for me? And if I don't have those things figured out, then like you said, any road will do. And pizza and beer on Friday night, and it looks great because I don't know why I want to live. I don't have that figured out. So clarity starts with understanding what we want personally, in my opinion, for myself. And then we design our business around that. Too often we do the other. We think if we just get a business that pays us a lot of money, we'll somehow get a life. I tried that. It didn't work. I know lots of people who tried that and just assumed they would get a life. So I think it starts with clarity about what we want in life, and then clarity about how we will build a business that will get us there. I don't know. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there is something, you know, until I met you, and on the back of your book, you have use your business to live your ideal lifestyle.
Outrageous.
You know, wow. Well, how are you going to live your ideal lifestyle if you don't know what it is? There was something, I just felt that if you made enough money at some stage, it all works out and life is wonderful.
Yeah.
It is not. That's not the way it works out.
Yeah.
You have to be intentional about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking at your business and saying, okay, well, I want to earn X amount of pounds and I only want to work 3 or 4 days a week, whatever the case happens to be for yourself. What does this thing need to look like in order to give me the time and the money to have the freedom to choose what to do with my time and my money? But nobody ever taught me that.
Right.
And it's one of the things I remember saying to somebody, what is it about when we get into business, there's something goes on in our heads and we think we need to know all the answers. We need to have all the answers. And you wouldn't do anything else. Like if you're going to learn how to swim or play golf, or you get a coach, you get somebody to help you. But no, the
Not in
business, we just think we need to.
It's a badge of honor. It's like as soon as you print a business card, you're supposed to know everything about your business. The rugged individualist does not look for help. And you're right. Every other area of life, we're okay with it. We have community when we play cards. We have community when we play golf. We have community when we play tennis. We have community when we go to the movies or go to dinner. And yet when you do business, you're on your own.
And again, I mean, my dad always said to me, son, show me the company you keep in the books you read. They'll tell you where you'll be in 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's probably more important the older I get than even when I was a teenager.
So we need clarity. We all should answer the question first, what do I want out of life? What does my life look like? My lifetime goal is to live well by doing good. That's my big why. That's what I get up every morning saying to myself, how will I live well today? This is a great example of long-term thinking. Since I know what my whole life needs to look like, every day then becomes a marker I'm going to get from that day some way of living well by doing good. We need to have that answer. What do I want for my life to look like? What's my legacy and what's my contribution in life? And then we need to have clarity about what does my business look like 1 year, 3 years, 5 years from now? How much time, money, and energy do I need? And how am I going to get that from this business? And once we get that, then that'll give us the second leg of this three-legged stool you talked about. We have clarity, and then what comes from that?
Hope.
Hope.
You got a sense of hope. I mean, I have a friend, Sean Connolly, as you know, his brother, one of his brothers took his own life. And Sean's way of dealing with that was trying to find out how would you get to there. And I remember asking him about it. He says, John, when you get to where you've got a sense of hopelessness, you will take your own life, or you have the potential to take your own life.
Right.
And it's a downward spiral, this sense of hopelessness.
Yeah.
And yet, if you think about it, the most important thing is if you take the time and start to get clarity and picture it. You know, Einstein said imagination is more powerful than knowledge. This idea of getting a vision board and a picture of the house and the car and things that will represent the life that you want to live, it's very, very important. Okay. The clarity will give you this sense of hope. And when you've got a sense of hope, you're more inclined then to take the risk. And I'm not talking about robbing the bank or anything. I'm talking about you lifting the phone to talk to somebody, going to an event that you're out of your comfort zone. Or it's whenever I go through this continually, I look and say, that actually isn't rocket science, but somehow it appears to be. But this hope thing is the most important thing. That sense of hope. And we've all done it. I mean, I'm sure there's times you got a phone call or you've opened a letter from the revenue or something, and literally the hope in you drains. Peter James wrote a book called Power of Focus, and in it he says, when there's no hope in the future, there is no power in the present. And that's the challenge for a lot of us as business owners. Okay, I am in survival mode. I'm literally got to pay the wages, got to pay the mortgage. And you're just literally going from fear to fear to fear. And you're wondering why it's not working out for you. So that thing, hope, is so, so important. And being involved and having people around you, which will help instill that sense of hope, is vitally important.
It is. And too often, I know I made this mistake when I talk with business owners. You've helped so many business owners over the last 20 years. I have as well. And too often, when I start talking like this, they immediately think that the clarity I have to have is around how much money, how much time do I need? They don't even think about energy. And then they put their hope in getting some time and getting some money. And when they get those two things, they end up hopeless because those are not goals. Those are resources to get to the goal. The goal is, why do you want time, money, and energy? A lot of the reasons I know for some business owners that go through my head right now, they never got the time, the money, and the energy that they wanted because they never really knew why they wanted it. They didn't really have clarity about what they would do with the time and the money if they ever got it.
Interesting, Chuck. We had our 3 to 5 meeting today, and in the conversation, and we're talking about freedom mapping, which is process mapping, only having the human being in mind as well. And one of the guys commented on, what am I going to do? If I do all this process mapping and stuff, I don't have a job. What am I going to do? And
Right.
I have seen this so many times. I mean, there's something about us. We get something working, and then we've created a bit of time, and nature abhors a vacuum. Then we go and break it to give ourselves something to do. And some of us are so used to living in a state of stress that when something happens and it's gone, we miss it. It's like a drug. I better break something or create an argument or do something to create a stressful situation again.
Yeah, so that I feel needed.
Yeah.
Well, it's fascinating. This came up in our 3 to 5, and for our listeners, 3 to 5 Club is a mastermind type group that we have for small business owners where they can say 3 magic words. I don't know, or I'm scared, or I need money, or I have too much money. That's 4 words, but it's a place where we can get together and actually talk as business owners to help grow our business. And this came up yesterday in ours as well. And I've had this happen so often when we talk about freedom mapping, like what am I going to do if I actually offload all this day-to-day stuff that I'm doing? And so I'll put this up on the screen for people who are watching this on YouTube. Here's what you can do. There's 3 things you can do. Instead of being a manager, you can become a leader. And you can be free not from your business, but in your business. Think of that. What if you showed up every day and said, what do I get to do? Not what do I have to do? And if you get clarity and you create hope around it through freedom mapping and other things, number 1 is guard the values. That's a culture thing. Leaders guard the values. Leaders get involved in the culture. And they talk about the principles that the business is run on, the values, the vision, the mission. And they make sure that everybody understands those and lives by those. The second thing is champion the people. Not manage the people, not hover over the people, but championing implies getting out of the way. So you train, you mentor, you guide, you support, you resource people, and then you get the heck out of the way. And that can be a full-time job as well. And then the third piece of this leadership thing is piloting the results, not piloting the process. That's for them to do. They give you reports. You look at the reports, you say, I like that, and you walk away, or I don't like that. And you go back and you champion the people again. You help train, mentor, and guide. So guard the values, champion the people, and pilot the results. We could all spend 40 hours a week doing just that. That's what you can do. That's the answer. You're not irrelevant. You are more important doing something else. And that's where we, as small business owners, we started out making the chairs, and we think if we stop making the chairs, there's nothing we can do. Well, surprise, there is.
And I mean, I genuinely believe we're all on this earth for the same purpose, and that is to make a difference in the world about you.
Yeah.
And the difference I can make is different from the difference you can make. The world about me is different from the world about you. There's more than enough out there. And I mean, if you think about that, the happiest people in the earth are those who want involved in making a difference in other people's lives. And, you know, focusing on me, again, I think, unfortunately, in society today, and it's causing huge issues, the whole social media thing, whatever, it drives us to be consumed with ourselves. Look at me and all this. And I understand it at one level. And, you know, as they say, if you don't blow your own trumpet, you don't play in the band, but keep it within context. We just get consumed with ourselves. And then, you know yourself, a goal realized is no longer motivating.
Yeah.
And how often have you done it? You know, you wanted to get something, you get it. And the Ferrari or whatever it happened to have been. I had a friend, God rest me dead now, John Duke, and he had a mate who was a sales manager or something in the Ferrari dealership in Edinburgh, I think it was, in Scotland. And he was telling me that on average, the average Ferrari owner keeps a car for 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
Okay. The most exciting thing about owning a Ferrari is being on the waiting list for the 2 years beforehand, because you're telling everybody, I'm getting a Ferrari, it's yellow, you smell it, all that stuff. And then when you get it, it's the most impractical thing, especially now if you around this part of the world anyway, there's more ramps and more roads. And you imagine going over this, I can imagine these Ferraris stuck, or a Lamborghini, it's set so low to the ground, it's rocking back and forward over a ramp. But it's interesting. So the goal to get the thing, and then once it's achieved, it's a nit scratched.
Yeah.
Okay. So
now what? Yeah.
Making a difference is a goal you can never stop. And making a difference I remember reading a book by Rabbi Daniel Lapin. Forget what the title of the book was. And he talked about thinking generationally.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, I'd never heard anybody talk about that before. Yeah. Somehow, again, I know we get half this stuff. But I thought the idea in business was to get into business, build something, get it to where it's at its peak, and sell it to somebody, and get out and get the money and, you know, go on the beach type of thing. And you sit and go, wow, that sounds like retirement. And I'm actually a pensioner. It's a shock to me, you know. But I mean, I look at a lot of my friends I went to school. I still knock about with a dozen of the guys that I went to school in primary school that long ago. And I swear they're getting older and fatter by the month.
Yeah.
I think especially men need something to be getting up to.
Yeah. Oh, we all do. It's a lie that Otto von Bismarck invented. He invented retirement in, I think, 1879 or 1881. I always forget which one, but it's right in there. He invented it. It's not a human condition. It didn't exist before he wanted to get old Germans off the machines to let younger, cheaper Germans run the machines. And he invented that, and then we glommed onto that in the early 1900s. And we actually think it's a condition. We actually think it's something, a stage of life. For tens of thousands of years, we never did that. It's not that we went to the factory every day or we went to work every day, but we contributed every day. And elders actually used to be the most valuable asset in the community because they continued to be involved. They continued to be a part of the thing. So this is about goals that can never be achieved. That's the clarity we need. And it's about being things like, I'm going to be a great dad. Well, you'll never be done with that. My mom was 95 and she was still trying to figure me out and help me live life. It doesn't have to be a giant goal. You don't have to solve world hunger, but it has to be a continuous goal, something you can never figure out how to stop doing. You can write a check to a nonprofit every day the rest of your life. There's all kinds of things that we can get clarity about that will allow us to see why we want more time, money, and energy. So when we get that clarity and we see that vision in the future for our whole lives, and then 10 years out, 5 years out, 1 year out, that helps us see what to do today. That gives us hope to get up in the morning. And that's how I got up this morning. Okay, this is another day to live well by doing good. How am I going to do that? So when we have clarity and that gives us hope, then your third piece of this comes online. What does hope allow us to do?
Take a risk. Not
Take
to
a
say it's not about robbing banks or whatever. It's
Uh,
actually allowing yourself to get out of your comfort zone. It's about growing. I
Yeah.
mean, again, to quote Jim Rohn, how tall does a tree grow? The answer is as tall as it can. The amount of us humans that are running around where we haven't grown. You hear this expression, people say it with like a badge of honor. I only use 10% of my brain.
Yeah.
You know, and you want a medal for that?
Yeah.
Everything but every species on the earth but human seems to grow and live to its potential.
Yeah.
What is it about us that we don't? And I remember reading, not getting all religious or anything, but I remember reading something in a book and it said about original sin, if you believe in that. It said original sin was self-awareness. So Adam and Eve were naked in the garden. They ate the apple, then they became aware they were naked. So,
Yeah.
right? So I think that book was called Who Told You You Were Naked, I think. And it's that same thing, whenever we're consumed with ourselves, for ourselves, there's a difference between doing something to make a difference. Mother Teresa made an incredible difference.
Yeah.
I always love this story. I mean, Mother Teresa had an office. Where did she have an office, John? Where do you think it was? The answer is in Wall Street.
Yeah.
Why do you have an office in Wall Street? Her answer was, that's where the money is. And I think it was up to 4 times a year. Some corporation sent a jet to Calcutta. She was flown from Calcutta to New York. I think you paid anything up to $50,000 per ticket to have the dinner. And this wee small woman from Albania gave a talk. It took 50 million a year for this wee woman to look as poor as she did.
Yeah.
And I also find it interesting you read some of the stuff. I mean, she died about 2 days after Princess Diana. Okay. And she sort of slipped out in the noise. Can you imagine if she had died whenever there was nothing else going on in the world, the hullabaloo that they made of it? But the fact that it happened when all the other stuff was going on around Diana, she just sort of slipped out. It was really
Sort of
interesting.
poetic, yeah. She lived a humble life. She didn't want all the attention, and it's beautiful. So clarity, hope, and risk. This has kind of been high level today for business owners. It's like, why are we in business? But even today, super practical stuff we can do. If you don't know what your big why is, what are some things that you can latch onto that you'll never, ever be able to complete? You can do a bit of them every day, but you'll never be done. If you don't know what those things are, then you're kind of rudderless and any road will do. And that may be why you don't have the hope you need to take the risks you want in your business. If you know that your lifetime goal is to do something great in your community and it's going to take a lot of extra money, you'll take the risk to build your business. If you don't, then you have a tendency to move just right along and have that flat life. I've taken to saying recently that I want to die a glorious life.
Yeah.
I want to die a glorious life, not a glorious death.
Still on.
Yeah, I don't want to die a glorious death. Mother Teresa died a glorious life. She didn't die a glorious death. It wasn't big fanfare and all that stuff on the way out. But she spent a whole life doing that. Every one of us can do that. And to your point earlier, the most fulfilled people on earth are those who are solving other people's problems, not their own. So that's a clue as to what our big why should have in it. Yeah, we should have in there our own experiences and growing and curiosity and doing fun things. But the core of our big why, the ones I've seen that really are successful for people, is that they are involved in solving other people's problems.
Make a difference.
Yeah. So John, how can people get a hold of you? You run 3 to 5 clubs around Ireland to help business owners grow, and you've got your own business. How can people get a hold of you to just say, hey, I want to connect with John, and maybe I want to look at these 3 to 5 clubs as well?
The simplest one is either going to LinkedIn, just John Heenan, H-E-E-N-A-N, or again, go on to the website, the3to5club.com, and just fill in the inquiry form. I'll have a conversation with anybody, and if I can help, I will. It's just no more complicated than that, Chuck.
We don't want to make it complicated. Let's make it easy. John, this has been fun, my friend. We'll do it again.
Yep, I'll see you soon, God willing. Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks.
That wraps up another episode of the Get Off the Treadmill podcast. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and hit the like button to ensure you are receiving the latest tools you need to grow your business and to get off the treadmill. If you want more information on the 3 to 5 Club, the Crankset Group, or to book Chuck as a business advisor, speaker, or workshop leader, you can contact us at grow@cranksetgroup.com. Until next time, have a great week.